Let me take a moment and talk about Riverside.fm. It allows you to record studio quality audio and up to 4K video. When you need to record audio and video, Riverside.fm can do it. So if you're looking for a hero platform for all your recording needs, from podcasts to webinars to any video content, Riverside.fm. I've got a promo code for you where you'll receive a 30% discount on the first 3 months of your subscription. I'll give it to you twice. The promo code is SHIPIT. All one word, SHIPIT, and you'll pick up a 30% discount on your first 3 months of your subscription. Riverside.fm.
In this episode of the Football History Headlines on the Best of the Pigskin Dispatch, we discuss Super Bowl number 3 and Super Bowl 9, as well as many more Hall of Fame legendary stories and birthdays of these great players. It's all coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history, and to this great sports history that we are talking about. I just want to make sure you're aware that we have a couple other websites here associated, our sister stations to Pigskin Dispatch. First of all, we have the Sports Jersey Dispatch at jerseydispatch.com, where we are talking about the great sports, many sports, not just football, but we have baseball and hockey and basketball. We're going to be adding more onto that, and we're going to talk about those team sports through the uniforms and jerseys and the jersey numbers that the players wore, and just reflect on some great history. There is some great things and special coming up for you. jerseydispatch.com. Make sure you check it out. Also, our other podcast with number 80 Productions, that's where Oz Davis and I have teamed up to put together an audio drama called Orville Mulligan Sports Writer. We have a couple episodes out, a pilot, and we have some trailers out. But we have a Kickstarter campaign that's kicked up because we want to get this in full production. There's a lot of costs associated with this, and we need your help to make sure we have a great production, and because we have a great team put together. So make sure you go to orvillmulligan.com, check out our beginning episodes, and see how you can get a chance to listen to one of our full-length episodes that we have through our Kickstarter campaign. And we're really looking forward to presenting that to you, but we need your help. And now let's get to your football history headlines. And we'll start off in the year 1906 on January 12th, and according to the U.S. Library of Congress, the College Football Rules Committee met. It would meet again on March 31st, 1906, to formally become known as the Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the United States, the forerunner to the NCAA. Going through the progressive timeline of this group, we have to refer back to the famous October 9th, 1905 meeting where U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt called the biggest names of football together to discuss making football safer due to the high number of severe injuries and deaths that were occurring. On October 28, 1905, the reps of 62 college programs met to appoint a rules committee for the intercollegiate football. As a result of that committee appointment, this was the first official meeting of the Football Rules Committee, January 12, 1906. The accomplishments of this first meeting of the new rules-making board were mostly procedural and the appointment of subcommittees according to the Cornell Daily Sun write-up. January 12, 1946, the NFL approved the move of the league champion Cleveland Rams moving to Los Angeles. We alluded to this in our December 16th post and podcast in this segment of the 1945 NFL championship game. The relocation was extremely significant for multiple reasons. The team had just won the world title, for God's sakes. The other, and maybe even more groundbreaking item, was that at the time, the next closest NFL franchise to LA was 2,000 miles away in Chicago, per the SportsTeamHistory.com website. By the Rams leaving Cleveland, they also allowed the AAFC's Cleveland Browns to dominate the fan base of the city's official football faithful. And speaking of Los Angeles, In 1952, on January 12th, they hosted at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum the second annual NFL Pro Bowl game. According to the American Football Database, it was the National Conference, coached by the Rams headman Joe Stidhar, defeated Paul Brown's coached American Conference Stars by the score of 30-13. The game's most valuable player was Los Angeles Rams fullback Dan Towler. That had to make the home crowd happy. Compensation for the players in that game was that the winners each received $600, while members of the losing team got 500 dead presidents in their billfolds. As was an annual tradition back then, the Pro Bowl game was always played at the LA Memorial Coliseum, and it happened again on January 12, 1958. Per the OnThisDay.com website, the 8th NFL Pro Bowl game was won by the Western Conference as they beat the Eastern Conference 26-7. The MVPs of the contest were Hugh McElhaney of the San Francisco 49ers, who was a star halfback for the team, and the Washington Redskins' great defensive end, Gene Brito. How about we talk about one more Pro Bowl game that was played at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, and that happened on this date, 1964. Colts quarterback Johnny Unitas and his Baltimore teammate Gino Marchetti were the co-MVPs of the 14th annual NFL Pro Bowl. This game was filled with all-time great players, according to the ProFootballReference.com website. Cleveland back Jim Brown, Bears tight end Mike Ditka, and Lenny Moore of the Colts, and Green Bay's Ray Nitschke were only some of the legends on the rosters. In the game, it was the Western Conference Stars who knocked off their Eastern Conference counterparts 31-17. Now, here's a milestone in NFL history. January 12, 1969, at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. Super Bowl III, the day the AFL gained some respect. Super Bowl III pitted the AFL champions, the New York Jets, against the NFL's heavily favored Baltimore Colts. The most famous part of this game may have been the confident promise of the ever-trending setting Jets quarterback, Joe Namath, who declared in pregame interviews that the Jets would win the game, according to the Bleacher Report. In fact, he gave it as a guarantee. It was an almost laughable joke at the time, as the Colts were loaded with Johnny Unitas at quarterback, and his backup was a legendary Earl Morrall. And the Colts head coach was Don Shula. How could they lose to this team from what many considered an inferior league, the AFL? Well, Namath backed up his claim of victory by setting up the football world on its ear as the New York Jets upset the Baltimore Colts 16-7. The MVP of the game was one Joe Willie Namath of the New York Jets. How appropriate that was. And speaking of Super Bowls, there was another great one played on January 12th, and it occurred in 1975 at Tulane Stadium in New Orleans. It was Super Bowl IX, and it had the upstart Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Minnesota Vikings 16-6. This game was dominated by two great defenses. Minnesota's Purple People Eaters were matched against the Steel Curtain, anchored by Mean Joe Green. The scoring started in the second quarter, safety, and the Super Bowl square that would have won the half would have been the odds 2-0. Quarterbacks Fran Tarkenton and Terry Bradshaw together only mustered a total of 198 yards passing combined in the game, per the ProFootballReference.com. Franco Harris of the Steelers ran for 158 yards and a touchdown to earn the game's most valuable player, and the Steelers won their very first Super Bowl championship in Lombardy. As the NFL evolved, and they eventually went from 14-game regular seasons to 16-game regular seasons, it pushed the AFC and NFC conference championships and the Super Bowl back a little bit, and we get to the year 1986 on January 12th, where one such occurrence of this happened. At the Miami Orange Bowl, the AFC championship game for the 1985 season saw the New England Patriots beat the Miami Dolphins 31-14, per the OnThisDay.com website. That same day, at Soldier Field in Chicago, the Chicago Bears dominated the contest with the Los Angeles Rams 24-0 in the NFC Championship game, also from the OnThisDay.com website. A few years later, on January 12, 1992, at Rich Stadium in Orchard Park, New York, the AFC Championship game went on record as having the Buffalo Bills knocking off the Denver Broncos 10-7. The FootballDB.com website shows how Scott Norwood's 44-yard field goal in the fourth quarter was a difference in the defensive battle. John Elway could only muster 120 yards passing, and his backup Gary Kubiak only added 136, while Bills quarterback Jim Kelly could only toss for 117 yards. The defenses were truly on their game for both teams in this contest. On the other side of the league, January 12, 1992, RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. The NFC Championship shows that the Washington Redskins blew out the Detroit Lions 41-10 to gain entrance into the Super Bowl, per the OnThisDay.com website. We go a half a decade later into the future, January 12, 1997. At Foxborough Stadium, the AFC Championship game featured quarterback Tom Brady and his New England Patriots, who outlasted the Jacksonville Jaguars 20-6 per the ProFootballReference.com website. The NFC Championship game that year, on that same day of January 12, 97, was hosted by Lambeau Field and the Green Bay Packers, who took apart the Carolina Panthers 30-13 per the HonestDay.com website. We skip forward a couple decades and go to January 12, 2013 in Denver, Colorado. Baltimore Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco launched a 70-yard touchdown pass to Jacoby Jones to tie the game in what has become known as the Mile High Miracle during the AFC Divisional Playoff game. According to ESPN.com, at the time, Denver Broncos were leading this in the score over the Baltimore Ravens 35-28 with 1:09 remaining. The most unexpected catch and score took the game into overtime, where the Ravens won in overtime on a Justin Tucker 47-yard field goal to advance in the playoffs. Now let's switch gears and go to the college game and a national championship that was played on January 12, 2015 at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. The College Football National Championship had the number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes winning over the number 2 Oregon Ducks 42-20. SportsReference.com shows how the OSU running back Ezekiel Elliott dominated the game with 4 touchdowns and 246 yards on the ground. Now let's take a quick break from our headlines and let me remind you can learn more about gridiron history on our website, pigskindispatch.com. And you can contact me, Darren Hayes, at pigskindispatch@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Speaking of hearing from someone who's here is one of my podcasting partners from the SportsHistoryNetwork.com that has a message just for you.
He was known as the Bronze Bullet, tied the world record in the 45 and 60-yard dashes, and while he stood just 5'4", he tied the legendary Red Grange for most touchdowns in the Big Ten in a season with 10, and went on to score 45 more in the pros. Join me, Warren Rogan, and football historian Andy Piasek as we take a look back at the phenomenal career of Buddy Young on Sports Forgotten Heroes.
We have some great birthday legends on this day of January 12th. We'll start off in the year 1895, Prairie Hill, Texas. The great quarterback from Center College, Bo McMillan, gained entry into this world. At center, McMillan excelled as he lettered in 5 seasons of football. The footballfoundation.org website states that it is possible because he spent part of the 1918 season in service with the U.S. military, and the football season did not count against his college eligibility. He was reported to win games by drop-kick field goals, taking off on long runs, and these feats helped him to make the Walter Camp's All-American team as a quarterback in the year 1919. Bo was mentioned as an All-American in 1920 and 1921 as well. The NFF voters selected Bo McMillan as a member of the College Football Hall of Fame in the year 1951. January 12, 1920, Odell, Illinois. Another great one was born. As a great end from Utah, Max Speedy was born. The Pro Football Hall of Fame says that Max Speedy was the Detroit Lions' 15th round pick in the 1942 NFL draft, but he enlisted in the Army to serve his country rather than to play pro football. At least at first. After the war, he signed on with the AFC's Cleveland Browns and led the league in receiving in 3 out of the league's 4 years, and also set many AAFC passing records. He was an All-Pro 3 times, an All-NFL twice, and All-AAFC in 4 different seasons. The Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrined Max Speedy 100 years after his birth in the year 2020. January 12, 1943, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Tucker Fredrickson, the talented Auburn halfback, was born. Tucker was one of the last of the great two-way stars of college football, according to the NFF. Offensively, in 1964, he averaged 4.4 yards rushing, while on defense, he was a safety and made many tackles at the line of scrimmage. And in 1963, he led his team in interceptions. In both 1963 and 1964, he won the Jacobs Award as the best blocking back in the Southeastern Conference. The National Football Foundation honored Tucker Fredrickson into entry into its College Football Hall of Fame in 1994. We want to thank you once again for joining us on these daily football history headlines and legendary birthdays of Hall of Fame legends, as we do this every day on the Pigskin Dispatch podcast. And you can find us every day on the pigskindispatch.com, at your favorite podcast provider, or on the sportshistorynetwork.com, where there's some other great talented podcasts and great guests that will entertain you with some great sports history. So make sure you check that out too at the sportshistorynetwork.com. Peeking up at the clock, the time's running down. We're going to go into victory formation, take a knee, and let this baby run out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for the next podcast. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Jean Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It was just another ordinary day in the offices of the Pittsburgh Guardian newspaper circa 1924. But for Marla Delft, assistant editor, everything was about to change. For she was about to discover the awesome attractiveness of Row 1 brand retro sports paraphernalia items thanks to Orville Mulligan, sports writer.
And there it is.
Wow, Orville, that's really the bee's knees.
Isn't it just? A poster-sized replica of the actual 1909 World Series program cover.
I can see that. But where did you get it? And where'd you get it framed?
I ordered it from the Row 1 website, where over 6,000 items of sports memorabilia from the 1880s to the 1990s are available for reproduction, in multiple sizes and in several different materials, with over a dozen styles of frame to choose from for prints like this.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Delft would love to put up more of these in the office. But I'm equally as sure they're beyond this newspaper's budget.
Not at all, my dear Marla. See for yourself. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/row1.
sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. Oh my, these are good prices. Oh, and look at this stuff. Oklahoma-Nebraska football, college basketball art, Michael Jordan items.
And so
retro
it was that
sports
Marla Delft
advertisement
discovered the
placards.
splendiferous magic of Row 1 sports memorabilia, arts, and prints. You can too by visiting sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. That's ROW1 today for access to the full Row 1 catalog of gallery prints and gifts like t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, telephone cases, coffee mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Act today for 15% discount off all prints with coupon code SHN15 and 20% off all other items with coupon code SHN20 at checkout. And keep your dial locked to the Sports History Network for the exciting chronicles of the 1920 sports world in Orville Mulligan, sports writer. Coming soon.
Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.